Hi, everyone. Welcome to Curse 20s. My name is Cody. This is my friend Josh. Welcome to DMs Who Vape on a couch at an undisclosed location.
Very undisclosed.
Very. Um, this is a new playlist where me and my DM are going to get together and start talking about our differences, how we DM, how we like to play, things that we focus on, maybe how we got into it. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah. First of all, I don't condone my vapingness. Please don't be like us in that sense. Well, or do it's your choice. But
Do
I'm
it if you're 18
yeah.
or
First,
21, whatever your state
first of
says.
all, I just not promoting it. It's what I happen to land into. But also, nice little premise for us. Convenient premise, or so. But yeah, I just thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about our different experiences as as DMs, and then all different problems, obstacles we might have encountered,
Hmm.
and you know, I imagine a bunch of different obstacles you faced when it comes to like building your worlds or all those other scenarios is
Hmm.
different to any other person. So yeah, I figure that'd be kind of fun to talk about. And yeah,
Yeah. Well, let's get into it then. So, what in our last video we kind of touched upon what made you get into D&D, but what made you? I want to know what made you really get into running a game rather than just playing a game because it's a different scenario and experience altogether.
so yeah, just like I was saying, like probably everyone's experience is different because they probably picked up either different material or
Hmm.
different friend groups in their experience in D&D. So I imagine just in my comparison, my experience to yours, it's quite different.
Hmm.
My experience with D&D, I had about 5 sessions, and it wasn't even D&D, it was technically Pathfinder.
Oh, Pathfinder. Oh,
So
wow.
so I had 5 sessions, or maybe even six, I can't remember, of the not most eventful Pathfinder. Had a lot of like couple because of a couple players and a DM that was really trying
Right.
glimmers of hope, but was really uneventful. And then I started playing with you guys, but that's a whole scenario how that came about. So, I kind of had to learn on the fly and just everything from what I've seen on YouTube, what I, picked up on whatnot. That's why it was actually really nice to have a very understanding table that would help me with the rules at first,
Hmm.
because I was trying to build a world. Rules kind of came not second, but that part took a little,
Yeah.
adapting to. So
So let's get into something real quick. You said let's get into the story about what happened at the campaign that we were all supposed to play in that eventually led you to being a DM. Why don't you give a little recap of that? Because that was kind of a weird scenario.
it makes sense, and it would explain on like how like why my perspective might be different to your intro, which was, I mean, you started DMing after
Like 2.5 years of
two and a
playing.
half years,
Yeah, I
two
was.
and a half years of playing.
Yeah, and
I
I
mean,
played in a couple one shots. I played it long term in your campaign. So yeah, I didn't start.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like you knew the game, you understood the
Hmm.
mechanics, you
Right.
understood a lot of things that I was sitting there still just kind of like understood on paper, but barely had played with you guys. So it
Right.
was like, okay, let's double check my notes, and this
Yeah.
makes sense. This makes sense with everyone, and luckily everyone had really. I was very fortunate with you guys, and all the players we had were like everyone was cool. No, everyone was trying to balance stories.
Yeah.
A lot of the problems in other scenarios might happen. It was like, oh, awesome, we just have a group of people that want to play a fun game and tell an awesome story. Like one of the hardest things to find in the first place. I was like, okay, that's set. We'll figure out the rest. But anyways, yeah, we were, like we were saying initially, we were all supposed to be players because we met, Dave, and I met him through the kitchen. Made a big friend group, and we were gonna play in that this one of my original DM's campaign. He wanted to
Hmm.
play D&D 5e, and he bought the Storm King's Thunderbook,
Hmm.
and he wanted to play that world. And I knew he was really excited about it because it's what he wanted to drop us in initially when I played that other game, just using Pathfinder rules.
Right.
Whole makes the story, but either
Yeah.
either way, um, he was supposed to DM for us. And look, I don't fault the guy. Life happens and whatnot, but it just didn't work out. We tried many a times, and we'd have a whole group of people ready. We couldn't play the game, so finally, seeing that we had a group of people, I just figured, well, I'll just learn how to do it. Let's just figure this out. ran the one shot with you guys, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, little by little was able to put things together. It was very smart that I did the one shot to build my confidence up.
Mm-hmm.
Probably wrote a lot more custom story than I would have prepped for a one shot, but it was still really fun.
That
That's
was,
why it ended up being like a 3-5 shot.
yeah, it was awesome.
But well, I mean, it ended up being a lot more than that. It ended up being like a prequel to the
You
campaign, if you think about it, for your character at least.
for honestly, it doesn't even feel like it was a different, like a little sidetrack here. And that was like when I realized I was playing with somebody who was gonna just naturally be a good DM. Because you took
I
this
appreciate
one
it.
character that I made for a one shot, and it was it. We were done. And then a month later, you're like, I'm starting my big campaign. Do you still want to keep playing that character because I have a sick story for him? And I was like, sure, I'd love to keep playing that character. And then all of a sudden, it was like he had a backstory. The that
Well, I asked you about it. I remember
Yeah,
just sorry to cut you off. I just remember being like, well, do you want me to integrate this character into the story? Because there's ways I can do it. I don't need, I don't need a comedy of this character. I just would,
right.
sort of suggestions. He was already like a rune knight. I was like, what if he was a knight of
Hmm.
this kind? And it all kind of like, especially with abilities from your character, giants might, all these things. I was like, hey, he could be a knight of the storm giants. It would
Right.
naturally help progress my story.
Yeah.
Just that little detail, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And but I mean that the idea that you're able to take that detail and use it to give yourself built-in story progression is something that I'm like really look up to, and is something I really try to practice when I put it into my campaigns. Just like taking like Donnie's hag thing. I'm trying to use that now to push storylines
Dude,
along. So
he's
um
just a little bunny. He does not like the witches.
so
The,
so, so yeah, he does not like the
yeah,
Winchesters, you
the
said?
witches. I mean, I don't know.
The
Maybe
witches.
the
The
witches. The
witches.
witches.
Yeah.
Sorry, my accent as the bunny. I'm still
Well,
practicing it.
I was
It's a
spent
little difficult.
I was watching Supernatural, so I think Winchester's is on the top of my head.
That's fair. That's fair.
Um, so yeah, it was kind of like we had this guy who said he was going to run for us, and then life happened and he disappeared.
Hmm.
And you stepped up last minute and you said, "Why? I want to keep playing. We're like good. We all want to play." And you're like, basically, I'll try DMing. So my first time playing was that your first time DMing?
Yeah.
Wow. So and I didn't know that. I thought you had already been DMing games for like a year when we started
No,
playing.
no, that was literally no. I showed up to. That's when I showed up to the house that day. We didn't end up playing. We kind of session zeroed a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. But no, I just was like, okay, I'm gonna write a short one shot story, and I kind of looked up a bunch of videos online on how to do it, and thought of my own fun theories of what a fun story would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I took a lot of time, probably a lot of time, and wrote a whole mini story with little like dungeons. And actually found out that that's actually my favorite part to do was design dungeon, the like how the dungeon encounter goes. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably one of my favorite parts. But designed that and was like, let's see how it goes. And then we just kind of let it rip and then figured, look, I knew a couple of the rules, but then I figured there's some rules I'm not going to know. So that's why we kind of discuss things and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, figured out some rules over the table. And then I took suggestions from different, good DMs online, Brandon, etc.
Yeah.
Name, just insert name.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was just me just being like, here we go. And I'll be honest, the reason I picked that book for the big campaign afterwards, after we had so much success in the one shot, was because, well, two reasons. One, I was like, well, be honest, to this guy's credit, I'm like, he knows he knows what good content is. So I knew that he saw there
Mm-hmm.
was cool stuff in here, and I'll be honest, I think one of the issues was one of the things I countered was also pacing, which is probably video for another day. But the pacing for the group we had, the table we had at the moment, wasn't quite right. So as awesome as what we wanted to do was, I was like, that's hell. I've had tough pacing just in this story, and we've gone 3 years, and I've tried to keep it somewhat concise. And you see every time it's like it keeps opening up like a book. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Just like we could do this and this and this. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, party splits up in it. Not even just those shenanigans. There's a lot of potential with how big the world was and like set up for this story,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. But that was made a whole other set of obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
But I chose that book because of that, and I'll be honest, I was a little salty. I was a little salty, so I was just like, you know, I, I'm not gonna go into the details of it, but it came down to them thinking I wasn't capable. I was incapable of doing it. So
Really?
yeah, a little bit.
There's something
We
to
don't have to get
prove
into that.
there.
So I was a little bit, just like, well, I can figure things out. I'm clever. I'm not gonna say I'm smart, but I'm clever. So I was like, I'll figure it out. So it was a little bit of that, but that dropped pretty immediately. I'll be honest. Mostly it was, if I'm being honest, respect him, really him knowing me like, because he probably saw a really lot of cool potential in this, and that's as awesome as it was. That's when I opened Pandora's box to my obstacles as a DM. Um, and yeah, so essentially my scenario was a very new DM, new to role playing games in general. Maybe like a lot of video games, a lot of other stuff.
Right,
Seen a lot, but very green in role playing games and D&D with a awesome table, but a bunch of rookies as well.
right.
So essentially, it was just like you know, just a collaboration of noobs, just just all being nerds, being really awesome, trying to learn this game together. That's kind of how it worked. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that was my experience. On your hand, I don't know how you if you want to describe it.
Yeah, so uh, I started playing with you for a little while, and it had probably been about a year and a half in, and we were having scheduling hard times getting people to like. We had this one player who was like, I can only play every other week or something like that.
And then it was every other month.
Right. But so I'm like, okay, well, I've always really
I love you
liked.
though.
He's not dead.
No, yeah, it's dead. It's
He's
yeah,
his D&D career is dead.
yeah. No, no, he's no,
Um,
he's
so I'd always like played. I was playing with you, and then like we weren't playing, and the rest of us at the time, including David, were like, well, we still want to get together every week and play something. We just, how do we write Cody in and out? And I was like, well, can I take a chance? Like, well, can I just run a one shot one time and that'll give us something to do? And because I was like, I've always liked writing stories,
hmm
and I've always liked creative challenges like that with having to think of like, how would this go? How would this go? And I was like, if I felt like I was a pretty decent role player as a player, and I was like, I think I could put that role playing towards DMing. And I started writing, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it super easy. I'm just gonna take all the Greek classics, and I'm gonna run you through all the Greek classics. Right? You're gonna
things you
fight the
love,
Minotaur.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
you're gonna fight the Minotaur. You're gonna fight the Gorgons, but you're just gonna do it in a group setting. And
I
then I'll
didn't
try
fight the
to.
Minotaur. I was the
Well,
Minotaur.
then you became a Minotaur, and I was like, well, now I got to change that. So that's what he did to me. Session one, I had this. They were going into the labyrinth, and I was gonna have you fight the Minotaur in the labyrinth, and you're like, can I play a Minotaur? And I was like, I'll find something else for you to fight in the labyrinth. And I found those statue guys.
That's hilarious. It's because
First session, dude, I had to change something straight out of the gate.
well, I've always wanted to play a Minotaur, and I was like, you're telling me we're playing in Greece? I was like, oh my god, oh my god, I literally I even had the name I googled the name in Greek and everything. I was like, you one of my favorite tropes. So yeah, yeah, you tickled my fancy for sure. Sorry.
No, you're good. So I got to run that, and so it turned from a one shot, and I said, well, actually, I think this could turn to 8 to 10 sessions because of I think I can add enough stuff with all these things, right? Like 2 sessions per bad guy, and then there's like one big bad guy at the end. And we started playing that, and then unfortunately, we only got like 4 sessions into it, and then the other guy we were playing with had to stop playing for a long time too. So our party went from 4 guys, and then within a month turned into 2 guys. And I don't know,
The
I
biggest BBG of them all, scheduling
scheduling.
conflicts.
Yeah, I know, dude. But I think that's what really got me into it. I said, well, let me run a one shot just to keep while we figure out, while you take a week to figure out how you're going to
hmm
rewrite the story without the other character. And then that one shot turned into like a 4 or 5 shot, and I never got to complete it. And so I was like, man, like I want to try DMing again. I felt like I was just getting rolling with like a story too, and I felt like I was doing a pretty decent job of building this overarching story that was going to like complete within like 8 sessions. I thought I was going to be like really good at it, and I never got to complete it. And you fast forward like another year and a half, and we're still only playing your campaign once, maybe twice a month because we can never get. It was only just you and me that could play. Everybody else was either
hmm
calling out or they couldn't come at the same time. And you had done so much work in your campaign, making all of us super important to the overall story that not having a character in would slow it
There
down.
were some sessions that we could definitely run without, and then there were some that were like
You have
I
to.
have tied crucial villains, events, peoples, locations, like so many
Right.
things into these things that I was like, it involved players backdooring stuff that it was sitting there just like yeah, we're gonna need at least this guy once, like once he's if he's gone and can't get to the next like Archer chapter, that'll be fine. But God,
Yeah.
I need them for this chapter. I wrote it for like if I'm being honest, I wrote it for them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I absolutely get that. So it turned our campaign into like, I don't want to say it, but like a slog. It was like, dude, when are we going to get together and play? And then
It was hard to get excited about thinking about stuff
yeah,
sometimes.
they would, it would, most of the time it get canceled day of, and we just like, oh, so we're just
Oh,
not.
I dude, there.
Yeah.
You know how many times I was sitting there getting ready to draw maps, and
Hmm.
then I just. Anyways,
Yeah.
anyways, but
S-
point is, yeah, it got to a little bit of slog, so it was needed. It was nice to get him.
So because it has slowed down so much, I had met two other friends. One of them is like my future brother-in-law, and one of them's a coworker at work. And we were all hanging out, and we all like MMA, like UFC and stuff. So we were watching the UFC event, and they were here, and I basically just said, "Hey, would you guys, because we haven't been able to play in so long, I've been thinking about finishing my Greek campaign." And then that turned into, well, you know what? If I'm gonna have all of you guys playing, let me just start a whole new campaign. And then I ended up picking the module that we're in and building a trying to build a whole world based off this module and make it
Mm-hmm.
more than just whatever the book was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently working on that, but like, and then I've gotten to run that now for probably about 15, I think we've had like 14 or 15 sessions, like solid 3, 4 hour sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been,
It's been fun.
been a blast, dude. It's been awesome.
It's been fun.
But we can talk about that in a different video. Thank
Yeah.
you for checking in. This is how we both got into DMing. Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching another episode of Curse 20. Please remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button to keep up to date with future videos. Also, keep a lookout for our future Twitch channel. Have a good night and happy rolling.